Hellcat.
What's up? So that went wrong. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'll be reacting to. Let's try that again. What's up, guys? Welcome back. In this video, I'll be reacting to the last words, 25 strangest words before death from prisoners. So if you guys enjoyed this, smash the like button, subscribe, and share and comment, and follow my TikTok.
Hopefully, you'll never face execution for committing a horrible crime. But if you do, don't squander the opportunity for a quotable final statement. Sure, you could just tell your parents or spouse that you love them, but you could also be like the following criminals, who said some pretty bizarre and crazy things just before being shuffled off the mortal coil. Here are 25 of the weirdest things anyone said in the face of execution. Most famously portrayed by Charlize Theron in the 2003 film Monster, Eileen Wuornos was executed on October 9, 2002, after killing 6 times over. Her final statement was as incomprehensible as it was memorable. "I'd just like to say I'm sailing with the Rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus June 6th, like the movie, big mothership and all. I'll be back." That's certainly an interesting quote, but not a terribly accurate one. For one thing, Independence Day came out on July 2nd, not June 6th. Also, as of this video, she has not in fact been back. And as a side note, I'm guessing Dwayne Johnson heard this quote and immediately requested to be left out of this. Can you blame him? Thomas Grasso committed double murder.
Guys, can I just go and say, go subscribe to this channel. I'll leave my name in the bottom in like the description and comments. So go and subscribe to them. They do an awesome channel. They have an awesome channel. Go subscribe, and I won't be doing it all. I'll do up to about 15 or 20.
And on March 20th, 1995, paid the ultimate price for doing so. He had what sounds like a delicious last meal: mussels, clams, a Burger King double cheeseburger, ribs, milkshakes, pumpkin pie, strawberries, and spaghetti. But the menu was apparently unacceptable to him. He used his final moments to let the world know why. According to Grasso, "I did not get my SpaghettiOs. I got spaghetti. I want the press to know this. Fresh pasta instead of canned? Talk about cruel and unusual punishment." Wesley Allen Dodd was a monster, but at least he knew he was one. He was convicted of molesting 3 children before brutally murdering them, and he knew he had to go. He requested to be executed, realizing he would rape and murder again if set free and given the chance. To him, the only cure for his condition was to be destroyed.
I mean, at least he knew that if he got set out, he would go back to murdering. But I don't like agree with this death row. I just think it's out of order. They should just be in prison for like 30, 40 years, and then I reckon they should be alright.
That's why on January 5th, 1993, he gave a statement prior to his hanging, saying, "I was once asked by somebody, I don't remember who, if there was any way sex offenders could be stopped. I said no, I was wrong." But rather than this being mere dark humor in the face of death, he continued, opining, "I was wrong when I said there was no hope, no peace. There is hope. There is peace. I found both in the Lord Jesus Christ. Look to the Lord and you'll find peace." Perhaps, but the families of his victims likely found peace when Dodd was removed from the world. On September 13, 2000, prolific robber George Harris was executed for the murder of an acquaintance who Harris had entrusted 2 machine guns to. When Harris came back later for the guns, his acquaintance claimed he didn't know where they were. So Harris shot him, proving that his acquaintance was right to keep those machine guns away from him. He clearly wasn't repentant for the killing. When given the chance to speak one last time, he said, "Somebody needs to kill my trial attorney." And that's why the courts decided he had to go. While she most certainly wasn't a criminal, Sarah Good still makes this list for having one of the most memorable facing execution lines in history. As one of the first women to be accused of witchcraft during the 1692 Salem witch trials, Sarah Good was in an impossible position. No matter what she did or said, the courts were going to find her guilty of witchcraft. So she decided to face the inevitable with one of the most quotable lines in condemned person history. Once she was found guilty, she yelled at the presiding judge, "I am no more a witch than you are a wizard, and if you take away my life, God will give you blood to drink." While it's certainly possible she said other words before actually being hanged, these were her final words recorded for posterity. And as it turns out, her words may have been prophetic after all. 25 years after Sarah Good's trial, her judge actually choked to death on his own blood. It was either pure coincidence or Sarah Good really was a witchy woman. A slow-acting one, but still. Jimmy Glass murdered 2 people following an escape from the jail he was already incarcerated in, so at least he was used to where he was going once arrested. After his trial, he was sentenced to die via the electric chair, something he attempted to circumvent by petitioning the highest court in the land. He argued to the Supreme Court that the chair was cruel and unusual punishment, and therefore unconditional. The court disagreed, and to the chair he went. Resigned to his fate, Glass devoted his final words to more complaining, but this time of a more trivial nature. Strapped into the chair, Glass uttered, "I'd rather be fishing," before getting fried alive. To be fair, most people would probably agree with him. In 1991, Robert Towery robbed and murdered a man, and the next year was sentenced to death. It took 20 years, but on March 8, 2012, Towery finally faced the ultimate punishment. For the most part, his final statement was straightforward. He apologized to the victim's family, his family, and wept over the endless mistakes he made. But then he uttered his official final words, which made hardly any sense at all. "I love my family. Potato, potato, potato." Nobody knows what he meant by potato. It could have been a
Guys, these are just like criminals. They might have some problems, but they're so stupid. I'm glad that I'm not glad. It's kind of good that the electric chair and that's around, but I just don't agree with it. For people like these, I agree, but the world's a better place, like, without pedos.
name his family had for him.
Or serial killers or murderers.
He apologized to the victim's family, his family, and wept over the endless mistakes he made. But then he uttered his official final words, which made hardly any sense at all. "I love my family. Potato, potato, potato." Nobody knows what he meant by potato. It could have been a pet name his family had for him. It could have been a pet name he had for a loved one. Perhaps he simply loved potatoes. Or possibly it was mere delirium from the lethal drugs flowing through his veins. There are few better or braver ways to face pending death than with a terrible pun. That's exactly what convicted cop killer George Apple did just before getting the electric chair on August 29, 1928. When asked if he had a final statement, Apple provided one for the ages. "Well, gentlemen, you're about to see a baked apple." His classic dad joke didn't save him from the mercy seat, but I'd like to think the executioner at least smirked a bit before pulling the fatal lever. Few people are pure, unadulterated 100% evil, but Carl Panzram certainly was. Violent crime was his career, and he happily worked overtime. By his own account, he murdered 31 people and raped both men and boys over 1,000 times. He served 9 separate prison terms until killing an official at the prison he was incarcerated at. After that, he received the death penalty, being hung on September 5, 1930. As befitting a man without a good bone in his body, Panzram spent his final statement heaping abuse on others. Feeling his executioner was taking too long to end him, he spat in his face and yelled, "Hurry it up, you Hoosier bastard! I can hang a dozen men while you're screwing around." Since he didn't exactly endear himself to his jailers, he received the most unceremonious burial possible. He was buried on prison grounds with a headstone that simply reads 31614, his prison number. Peter Kürten was essentially Dracula. Known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf, Kürten was found guilty of 9 murders and 31 attempted murders, though he likely committed far more. What's more, he was known to drink some of his victims' blood, which likely figured into the court's decision to kill him via beheading on July 2, 1931. Kürten faced his own death with the same bloodlust he had when forcing others to face theirs. He asked the executioner, "Tell me, after my head has been chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be a pleasure to end all pleasures." Then when the executioner asked him if he had any real last words, he simply replied no. He knew he couldn't top his query, and so he didn't even try. Much like George Apple, condemned murderer James French faced the electric chair with a smile and a dad joke. On August 10, 1966, just before taking the ultimate punishment for hitchhiking and then killing a man who picked him up, he cracked wise to the executioner, "How's this for a headline? French fries." He was then asked if he had anything else to say, and he responded, "Everything's already been said." He, like others before him, knew that if you gotta go out with a pun for the ages. Vincent Gutierrez endeared himself to nobody when he carjacked an Air Force captain named Jose Cobo and then shot him to death. It wasn't exactly controversial when the court sentenced him to die.